Finally, we've got Daredevil born again. It seems like we've been waiting on this for like forever. We finally have Foggy, Matt, Karen. They're all in the same room together. They're having a fun time. They're drinking, saying goodbye to what seems to be a police commissioner over here named Cherry. And we see Foggy throwing out some game. This is a fantastic start until, because of course this is going to be talking about spoilers, Foggy doesn't even make it past the first 20 minutes of the first episode.
God damn it!
I don't think there was anyone that wasn't expecting Foggy not to die this season. With ominous lines in the trailer and him being suspiciously out of pretty much everything that we saw, aside from like a few scenes, yeah, it was pretty easy to come to the conclusion that Foggy wasn't gonna make it either too far or wasn't gonna be included too much in the series. But does that take away from the impact of the show so far? Absolutely not. Well, that might be something that a few people might be hung up on, understandably. The show in itself is actually remarkable. I wasn't anticipating a Marvel show to come back and actually draw me in as much as Daredevil Born Again has. Because while it might not be the exact same show that we got on Netflix with its gritty aesthetic, it sure as hell does try. The cinematography is different than what you've seen in the Netflix series, and for some people that might be a little bit disappointing, but it does some very interesting things with Matt Murdock's perspective. Over here, we see a shot get completely zoomed in to see how Matt perceives the world, and then we see it focus in on Foggy in his conversation out in the background over here. And alongside this, we also get what seems to be much more of a color palette in this show than we get in a ton of other Marvel series that just look like different shades of gray. This kind of New York might not be as visually gritty as the Netflix series, but that's also showcased in another way. This first episode automatically tackles how gritty the series can be with that fight sequence between Bullseye and Daredevil. And they sure as hell did not waste anything on bringing back Bullseye. This guy is pure chaos incarnate. He comes in and he tears down the shop. Because once he's done with Foggy, he goes in left and right, killing any innocent person in his wake as he's battling Matt. We need villains like this. We need people that are truly detestable in the Marvel universe. People that have no redeeming qualities and just kill and want to see agonizing pain for the sake of it, for the fun of it. He did more damage in the intro to the first episode than a ton of other villains ever do to their protagonist. The only thing that made me a little bit worried with the fight sequence over here between both of them was the use of CGI, because the Netflix series didn't seem to use all too much of special effects when it came to the fight sequences. But over here, we see Daredevil swinging with those nunchucks. And yeah, I can't be blamed for thinking that this kind of looks like the 2003 Daredevil. I mean, let's put these side by side right over here. Like, listen, I know CGI's improved in like the last 20 years, so I am hoping for maybe a potential increase in the budget going forward, because that's the one thing that does look a little bit janky. This all gets redeemed at the end because while Matt is listening to Foggy's heartbeat finally go away, he just throws Bullseye off the roof in a scene that is so cold. Matt fully intended to end this man's life right then and there. And then we see Karen's panic about who that body is that just landed behind her. You get to see that moment inside of her where she thinks that this can actually be Matt. I would say that this is a pretty good way to bring back the show. But it also does carry something that I do want to say, because listen, wasn't it true that when this was first announced, they said that this was going to be a new kind of Daredevil with new characters, a new setting, a new kind of story? And then fans got upset and then they brought back all of the previous cast. You know, kind of like what fans did with the Sonic movie and Ugly Sonic. I feel like that was a thing, right? So if that's the case, then we got this intro scene over here to establish the characters, establish the universe, and to justify all of the fans that were craving this. And then the rest of the show is what the original intent of making this new Daredevil Born Again project was. Because it does feel very distinct from one another, aside from the fact that we've got Bullseye over here who is potentially going to jail. We're gonna see how that goes, because Fisk is not going to be done with him, I guarantee it. But I mean, I hope that we get to see more Foggy and Karen. They can't just be one-offs or characters that we just barely see. And after Foggy's death, the series jumps a full year, where Matt is now a part of a new firm, he's hung up the mantle of Daredevil, and Karen's moved on to San Francisco, showing us a Daredevil that's fully gone into just being a lawyer, and things are going pretty well for him. That is until we see Wilson Fisk once more, because this guy's come back from, you know, being shot in the face, something that's actually been established as canon, by the way, per his conversation with Matt. So everything that's happened in Echo and Hawkeye, we're all good right there. But this guy's come back, and now what he wants to do with his life is that he wants to run for mayor. He wants to change the city, and he wants to take down the masked vigilantes that are causing all sorts of trouble around. He cites Punisher, Spider-Man, and Daredevil. That's been our premise in the series, and now we've just been left questioning what's Fisk's actual actual intentions with running for mayor and what his plans actually are for New York City at large. Matt's new partners over here are fine. I definitely have some questions about Cherry as a character because now he knows that, you know, Matt's a Daredevil and he's obviously trying to push Matt back into that position, but we need to see a little bit more about his backstory. I mean, wasn't this guy about to retire, or is he already retired and now he's just doing this to help out Matt? And then we got Kirsten over here, a former DA that Foggy was trying to rizz up. I wonder if they're gonna go in any depth about how her and Matt started this firm together. I mean, we gotta see how they got so close because now they're so close that she actually set him up with this therapist over here, another person to fall victim to Matt's just incredible charisma, because even though he's blind, he still manages to go out with people that are just beautiful. That's a superpower in and of itself right there. They're fine right now. I'm sure that they're gonna get fleshed out more as the series progresses. On Kingpin's side, we've got some actual family drama because in Fisk's time away, Vanessa has been with someone else, apparently. And also she's been running the entire company in like the most perfect spot possible because now it makes it possible for him to run for mayor. Something that is incredibly controversial for, like, you know, mostly everyone that knows Fisk's, but is somehow incredibly popular with the working people because they see a self-made man over here just rise up to the top of New York. A guy that gets things done, says it how it is. You know, things that we're probably a little bit too used to hearing nowadays. And then when Matt catches wind of Fisk running, one of the first things that he says is that maybe if New York elects him, this is gonna be something that New York actually deserves. Which that quote in itself is something that hits way too close to home. I've said something like that. I think a lot of people have said something like that very recently. And like any great political upset, of course, Wilson Fisk wins. Whoop-de-doo. Is he a changed man? Of course not. Is he gonna say that to Matt in front of his face? Of course he will. This whole conversation with them in that restaurant is pretty fantastic. I think it's one of the better written things that we've seen so far. And it's just a great place to have these characters just meet on the same level, talk about what their motives are, or their apparent motives, and also give each other a warning about not to cross the other. Two people that obviously have respect for one another, but obviously also hate each other. The tension is very palpable. And now that Fisk is gonna be bringing his fist down on costumed vigilantes, it's definitely gonna interfere with Matt, and of course it interferes with the first case that we're gonna be privy to. Because now we've got an apparent cop killing in New York City, where the person that Matt's gonna be defending turns out to be the White Tiger. To be honest, I don't know why it never clicked to me that Hector Ayala was the White Tiger. Makes sense, I should have known that the second he popped up on screen and threw hands better than all those other kids would. His fight sequence was absolutely solid, but it also fills you up with a huge sense of dread the second that you see that guy fell off the ledge and it turns out that he accidentally stumbled upon a fight with cops. This feeling of the whole world being against Matt is dreadful. In a good way, because it's something that's supposed to make you feel like they're powerless and that there's nothing else that they can do. It's frustrating to see all these people just completely ignore and dismiss Hector as just being a cop killer without putting all the other evidence into effect. Like they say, New York City cops protect one another. Following this case with Hector over here is probably one of the best moves that I've seen the series do. This is solid over here. I mean, the entire time I was still saying that they had no shot to win against the New York Police Department. But hey, things happen, apparently. Matt throwing in the fact that this guy was the White Tiger was a move that I wasn't expecting, and I didn't expect it to go as well as it did. This might be the move that gets Matt to see that his Daredevil persona might be something he needs to bring back because of how much good he can actually do for the people. Everyone loved White Tiger, and that's the reason why he got off as he did. If he didn't do that, then Hector would probably be in a cell. But wait, that might actually be a little bit better than where he ended up. Episode 3 of Daredevil Born Again hits hard because, spoilers, I don't know why you would click on this video if you didn't expect that, Hector Ayala dies in the finale at the hands of who seems to be Punisher. And that's a little bit interesting because spoilers for anything that probably hasn't been shown yet. I remember back when the leaks came out, there was this little scene over here with someone wearing a Punisher outfit killing White Tiger. This was months ago and I didn't know if this was from a scrap storyline or not, so I didn't know if this was gonna end up on the show. But it seems like, in my opinion, that this is gonna be a copycat crime. And the series seems like it's gonna be going in the direction of some pretty interesting topics because these cops that are practicing police brutality, they have tattoos of the Punisher, something that for police officers really doesn't make any sense because Punisher as a character is someone that works outside of the law because the law doesn't work, and he's there to punish people that are breaking the law as well as abusing the law. So these cops that go on these rampages that just end up killing innocent people or just harass people in general are people that would be on Frank's hit list. Cops that have Punisher tattoos or Punisher stickers are missing the point completely. And I think that's what we're gonna get at with this season, at least a little bit. Because I gotta say, Matt's confrontation with these two officers over here is just just cathartic to watch. He gave them every chance that he could to let them stop and not do whatever stupid thing they wanted to do. But the second they pulled that gun out, it left him absolutely no choice, and we saw one of the most devastating battles that we have seen on a Disney Plus show in the MCU. Matt Murdock absolutely washes these two guys. We see that rage that he's been suppressing for so long finally come out. Listen, as Fisk said, it's hard for a man to suppress that animalistic instinct, and this is something that Matt just has inside of him. He has that dog inside of him. If the fight sequences are gonna stay on this same level over here, then that means they're gonna be outstanding. I don't have any doubt that they're not gonna be amazing. And you remember that therapist I mentioned that was dating Matt a little bit ago? Yeah, she's now the person that's handling the couples counseling for Fisk and Vanessa. A whole new interesting dynamic over here, and shows us that Matt is now tied to them in a completely different way. That's fun, and that's absolutely not gonna put anyone in danger whatsoever. So far, for the first 2 episodes, the series already has me gripped. It's been doing a lot of things that I've liked, and also a few other things that were completely unexpected. Something that I wasn't really paying attention to in the other Daredevil series was the music, because I absolutely adore the songs that they put into this one over here. It looks like they grabbed a page from the Zack Snyder playbook, because they grabbed some Nick Cave right over here to really show us just how solemn Matt feels in that apartment over there, losing his faith in what he's doing. Or the other scene over here where we got Kingpin on the rooftop and Matt on the ground as Staring at the Sun by TV on the Radio is playing. One of my favorite songs of all time. It really does set the scene, and I love the vibe that it's making right now. But we just have to wait and see how this entire series ends up playing out. When's Punisher gonna appear? I mean, we saw him in the trailer, so he has to show up sooner than later, right? We'll see about that. And alongside all the things that we've seen in episode 3, we also got the mention of a name that may or may not be a little bit of a tease or Easter egg, depending on how you look at it. Because we got the mention of an Officer Morales, which, okay, flags are raised immediately. Could they be talking about Miles's dad? I mean, listen, Miles Morales right now is a very prominent figure when it comes to anything related to comics or the MCU in general. The Spider-Verse movies are huge, and it wouldn't be much of a surprise if it's something that's mentioned in this. I mean, we already have that Daredevil Peter Parker connection that we saw in the last movie. The only things that go against this are that normally Mr. Jefferson is named Jefferson Davis, and it's Officer Davis until he changes his name to Officer Morales. So it depends on where in the timeline this is, or if this is even the same Morales. I mean, they're talking about Washington Heights over here, and you're gonna get a ton of Boricuas, so don't put your hopes up too much. Online, I've been seeing some people talk about the fact that Foggy might actually not be dead, because there's some references to some comic books to where Foggy actually faked his death over here, but that just might be people bargaining, because this was just a death that was way too sudden. Who knows? Maybe it's gonna surprise me and Foggy's gonna get brought back, but that's yet to be seen. But aside from that, what do you guys think about this new Daredevil Born Again series? Please let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to know what you guys' thoughts are. And as always, I was Randy, and I'll be seeing you guys next time.